I want to then take this opportunity to invite a fellow economist, and that is Mr. Robert Shaw. You've read about him. I don't need to say much about him. He was a former director where I used to work, and he knows his stuff. So give it up for one and only Robert Shaw.
Commend Kara for choosing such a hot topic, and it seems to be getting hotter and hotter by the day. I was told this morning that in addition to the various causes of drought and armyworm, we now add floods. So we have really before us a huge challenge which is unfolding fast and is going to test us for the foreseeable future. And I'm not going to say this year; it's going to go into next year as well. So this is a big one, and I think we need to understand some of the dimensions of it. When we're talking about food, we mustn't just talk about what we are eating ourselves. A percentage of what is being consumed is by animals that we in turn consume. So we have to factor in, the feed that setups like Kenchick, Farmer's Choice are buying, and it's very significant. Even if they're all part of, directly, indirectly, it's part of the food chain. We have to look at the total consumption because if you're feeding the chickens, which are in turn chickens that we are eating, you can't really say that that is a separate issue. So that is a factor as well, and it's very important to emphasise that. This issue to do with food security, food self-sufficiency. I don't want to sound like a really old man, but it's been an issue in Kenya for many years. One of the less contentious issues now is that we, as a country, as a government, we recognise much more quickly when we need to import food. So overall, Kenya is structurally a food deficit country, particularly for wheat. 3/4 of our wheat at least is imported. For maize, it really depends. Sometimes on a really good day or year or harvest, we probably could just get by. But one of the blurred factors in that is that we have a lot of maize that quite often comes over from Tanzania and Uganda, and I'm sure any of you who've travelled, you've seen it. Whether it's formal or informal, there's a lot. It's not just maize. If you're coming across from Tanzania, quite often you'll get stuck behind a truck that's ferrying onions or oranges or whatever. So there's quite often the deficit in maize has been made up by these formal and informal imports. What's really hit us this time is that the drought factor, and I expect the armyworm factor also regionally, has just hit the region. It's grim. It's grim. I was in Tanzania about a month ago, and I must say it was not, for a country that has huge land resources and whatever, it was okay, but the prices were going up, and definitely there were shortages, and there isn't much of a surplus, if any, that is coming across to Kenya. So Kenya basically now that sort of cushion that it often has is not really there. So we're stuck. We're in we are, if you like, the bare bones of this deficit. The structural deficit that we have is there for all of us to see, and we're obviously seeing it with prices going up, etc. I think there's something else we need to take out of the equation, because it's sometimes seen as something that sorts it out. Whatever strategic reserves are, there's an easy way to measure it. You just get the sum total of the strategic reserve held by the cereals board, and then divide it into how many days consumption it would be, and it's relatively little. So yes, you can put a little bit in. You can help alleviate some of the shortages in a temporary way, and you can also help reduce the speed of price increases. But it doesn't. There isn't enough there for the country to be self-sufficient just like that. It's really, and so that's why the strategic reserve subject has been actually a very controversial one for a number of years, and all the related issues to do with storage, etc., etc. So overall, what we've got now is something that I think is a very, we should take it very seriously and use it as a very steep and serious learning curve. We have got these. We can't deny that we do have. We are very vulnerable to the sort of structural deficits, and we also don't have a lot of. We as a country, a lot of the country is not suitable for growing a lot of these arable crops, and as we know, there's even the issue that quite a bit of the country, which is quite good for maybe some sort of cattle, is also suffering from major resource issues. So overall, we haven't got endless supplies of land, water. Yes, we've kept up with sort of new varieties of seed, better irrigation, etc. But the population is also increasing. So the challenges there are pretty immense. So where does that now leave us? And I think one of the things that we've got to, it's very easy to sit in a room somewhere and say, oh yes, but we should just really, people should eat less maize, they should eat more arrowroots, That's fine to say. But you go out into the street and you say to people, do you really want to give up or reduce the amount of ugali that you eat? And most of them will actually look at you as if you've been quite offensive. So you're not going to be able to, you can certainly go the route of trying to have, the crops that thrive in arid conditions. You can certainly try and have much more of that, but you are probably not going to affect very much, if you like, the dependency of maize and wheat. Remember, wheat is bread, and a lot of those foods related to that. So I don't think you have the answer of changing the diet is not going to. You can certainly improve the diet. You can give some variety, but I don't think you can go out there and make people say, agree that they will not eat although they will not depend on maize. So we're really stuck with that. And then you get into, how can you improve? How can we learn from now? What are the things we've really got to speed up? Okay. Irrigation in some areas, yes, but as we've seen with Galana, very expensive stuff. I mean, how it's huge and has quite a lot of potential, but it's taken a long, long time. And yes, it's part of it, but it's not the answer by itself. In terms of seed quality, yes, improvements are being made all the time. But there is a very controversial edge to that one, and that is for many, or for some, that is to do with the GMO varieties. Now, if you're on the very strict side of that, GMO is a complete no-no. But for quite a few, there's something I talked to different people when I was doing my last piece, just to see, what was it? And I got the feeling that we have to listen. We have to be realistic. Maybe it's something that we don't necessarily want to embrace 100%, but we have to be pragmatic. I don't think we can rule anything out. And it certainly could help us on some of the strains. Drought resistance, disease. Of course, the other side of the coin on that is GMO imports, which again is very controversial at the moment. And the supplies cabinet secretary he's quite adamant that we can't import that. And as you know, there's different parts of various arms of government. One is battling against the other, one is for and one is against. So it's actually it's a rather hot subject, but I don't think we can shy away from it. We've got to say, should it be part of it? We want, in the end, a more proactive food policy. And and I don't think we can rule out that GMO should not be part of that. It has to be on the table. I'm not saying anymore, I'm not an expert on it, I'm just saying that, it's there. It's not going to go away. I think the other area, looking at sort of the way forward, is, as I said, we've got better. The government has got more responsive. But we do have, if you like, or government does have a dilemma. As you know, when it waives duties or reduces them, it's politically very sensitive for, Transoya, Nandi, etc., etc. They oppose it because for them that's in a way threatening. I mean, as a country, as a government, what we're looking at is there's going to be a deficit. We need to fill that gap somehow. We waive some of the duty or all of it or whatever in order that gap between supply and demand gets filled, and that's where your imports come in duty-free. I think we've got to be a lot more pragmatic about that as well, because we've got to, for example, the fact that we say, well, we quite often start and say, okay, for COMESA countries, yeah, but have a look at COMESA. I mean, as I was coming down this morning, I was listening to the world news and, the various, quite a lot of COMESA has problems with this drought and etc. has really hit quite a number of countries. There's not many surpluses. So I think we've got to be quite pragmatic about how we get it and how quickly, and also the cost in terms of the duties, because, you know, should we be paying the, you know, the 50, 60, 70% duties just because it's coming from a non-COMESA country? So there's all of that, you know, the sort of level of pragmatism. So in the sort of short, medium term, in terms of maize, we're an importer, a major one, and we will be, I think, going well into next year and beyond. Wheat, I don't think we're ever going to be, you know, we're, if anything, we're probably going to become more dependent on it. So overall, we just have to accept those facts.
Thanks, Robert. I think you've a very candid conversation. If you listen to his discussion, just picking the items. One, more proactive food policy. Number two is that everything should be on the table. And then three is also the link between the democratization process and conversation on issues that matter.